This is the Lightstick, also known as
The cubes of whatever,
with the nickname Cuba Gooding Jr.
like the actor.
Yeah.
Do a circle.
So each direction of the joystick controls a different either bass note or sustained chord in a certain key signature. So there's 8 positions, and so one of the positions is actually just a rest if you want it to be silent. The cubes, each color of the cube controls a different type of arpeggio in the key signature. So based on the root that is controlled by the joystick, the cubes create different patterns, and the different colors are different melodic contours. Green is just an ascending arpeggio that either does a version of an added 9th arpeggio or an added 7th. The blue is descending, and then purple is ascending stepwise, so it jumps up, goes down, jumps up, and then red is the opposite, jumps down, goes up, jumps down again. The color sensors in the grid, so the light that you see moving are actually color sensors. Each time a light gets to a point on the grid, that activates the color sensor to read the colors.
Due to technical difficulties, they're not working right now.
We would be able to put this here and then just change the side of the cube to hear a different color. So the idea is that by placing the cubes in different areas on your sequencing, that you can create sort of a melodic contour based on the color. So if you want your melody to kind of ramp up and then ramp down, you change the color based on that. And there's a sort of pseudo randomness of the rhythm. It'll either be on the off beat or on the actual beat, just to add some variation in the melodies.
So it starts at whatever point it's at and then takes a new direction.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
And moves
clever.
until it gets another direction.
Yeah, and it'll stay in that direction. Right, left, down. We'll do diagonals too. If I hit it in the right, there we go. Every time I change the joystick, the bass note will change. And so say you want a specific pattern of bass note, but you want to control the light differently, you can do this. And I want 1, 4, or 5, 4. Then I can turn it off. So now I can control the lights without changing the bass notes. So it'll just loop whatever I just recorded.
The blue buttons change between everything being based on the major mode or the minor mode, and the green buttons change between whether you're controlling the bass line or the chords over the bass line. It gets really interesting if you change back and forth a lot, especially in record mode, because you can have the hanging note change.
So I can actually sustain a minor chord and then switch back to major modality if I want.
And then we have filter control on the bottom with a soft pot, and we have the mod wheels rigged up and reason to do some very funky things to our patches, and that's what the left control is.
And there's a tempo slider on the right. I don't know if we explicitly mentioned that. That controls the playback of the chords or the bass and the speed at which the light moves. Everything is in terms of a tonic note, but it would add between 0 and 11 to the starting C. The implementation is incredibly hacky, but it works. Every note in the scale has its own little message box here that gets triggered. The joystick reads in 0 through 8, where 0 through 6 are the 7 notes of the scale. 7 is the rest, and 8 is neutral. So it ignores the 8s, and the others trigger the note numbers or the rest. And everything's tied to a metronome that's controlled by the tempo slider. And then for the chords, it's pretty much the same thing, but 1,000 times uglier. It's essentially the same process, but instead of just triggering single notes, it then triggers chords based on the notes in terms of the scale. the color sensor reads RGB values. It was just if R is the biggest value, trigger red. If green is the biggest value, trigger green. If blue is the biggest value, trigger blue.
The first thing would
And-
to do would be to check the purple though.
Yeah,
And
if
then
we
check
had
from there.
data for purple, we would have figured out the condition where that would be triggered instead.
It's an interface called I2C, which basically is a serial communication. It has one pin that it sends a binary message across over time.
The highest tempo we could support when we were sensing color was pretty high, but without having to take time to sense the colors, the maximum tempo was all the lights were always on. It was infinite.
Yeah. The weird thing about the softbots is they're currently reading noise corresponding to the value of the tempo slider
Right,
when
so
they're
that-
not running. So there's always some mod and filter on them.
So that the
Goes-
filter is actually following the tempo to a certain
Yeah,
degree.
it's unintentional.
Yeah.
but
It's a
feature.
It sounds
It's
cool.
a feature.
It's definitely it's
Definitely.
nice because you usually want a tempo that's sort of in the middle, and having values in the middle default is kind of nice, especially for the filter frequency.
Yeah. So the record button right over here, basically when it's off, there's no light. You press it once to start recording, and what that does is that changes in max where the joystick information is being sent to. So it's sent to this list, which then gets joined into a multi-slider, and it adds the most recent joystick to the front of the list. And when you press the button again, it reverses and sends out to this multi-slider, which it then loops through and feeds back through the joystick up here, and follows the metronome, sending the bass note or the chord note values depending on which we're using. We have a subtractor that represents the bass, and it's got a one-note polyphony, so that way when we change the notes, it does what it's supposed to. With the mod wheel set to control frequency resonance in the negative direction, an LFO that's maxed out, phase, negative phase and positive frequency modulation. I just messed with it until it sounded neat when the mod wheel was up. And then we have 3 Thor patches for the lead, and then down here we have a Maelstrom with a couple of choir patches loaded up, and it's running through some pretty wet delay with a heavy feedback. And the mod wheel is pitch shifting, increasing filter a little bit, and just general modulation to get kind of a shimmer effect.